everybody, to another exciting adventure of Nerdsplain It, the comic book podcast for every level of nerd. Don't forget, you can be a part of all the action and exclusive adventures by joining us on Patreon. For a small fee, you can get access to exclusive content that nobody else gets who ain't paying for it. And if you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, qualms, or quandaries, you can contact our helpline at 805-669-7230. Don't forget to like our podcast episodes, share them with your friends, get them to subscribe, and comment. Let us know, what are we doing well? What can we do better? We're always striving to improve, as noted by the massive audio quality differences that you see listening to the early episodes versus listening now. And let's see, Jess, did I forget anything about that? You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Google Play.
Stitcher.
Yep. Don't forget to catch us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever your media is social. Wherever that one uncle makes political posts that you just wish he wouldn't. All right. And I am joined, as always, by the incredible, edible Wookie.
I am very edible, actually, yes. Tasty. Minty fresh.
Finger licking good.
By the bearded Baron of the Bowery House.
I don't even know how to greet myself to that one.
By our moral compass, Jess.
Hi.
And unfortunately, we do not have Greg with us this week. And as always, we'd like to give a shout out to Kat, who works her tail off at the conventions, making sure that our name gets out there. I am Dave, and today I am very excited because we are talking about my favorite superhero ever. So I like him so much. I have a huge tattoo on my arm of him and one of his arch nemesis. He is the devil of Hell's Kitchen, the man without fear. Here comes Daredevil. Why are we talking about this? Because October 19th, we got, or will be getting, the third season of the Netflix series. I say got or getting because I don't know when this is coming out. Maybe before, maybe right on time. And,
Before.
Oh, okay. And I'm super excited. We're getting the Netflix, accounts on Twitter and Facebook. We're doing posts that were still pictures with biblical verses attached to them, just the, book, chapter, and verse. Then we started getting teasers, and the teasers are where it's getting interesting. And honestly, I think we can kind of go from that. What's up, Jess?
Okay, so you're not going to brag about this, so I thought I would for you. Didn't you just recently tell me you've read every single issue for like the last 20 years?
Yes. If you look to your left on my shelf, starting at the end of the top shelf, where it's the one that says Daredevil Visionaries Kevin Smith, from that all the way to the comics that I have in my in single issue and long boxes, it accounts for 20 years of Daredevil reading. Every single issue. I didn't even realize that until I reread Guardian Devil and realized it came out in 1998. So I've read quite a bit. Now, that doesn't mean I necessarily remember all of it, because I have read it numerous times. I've gone through the whole run. I do that every so often. But it's a good read. A couple of sites have said Daredevil is probably the best character in the Marvel Universe just because they put great writers on Daredevil. He's a very relatable character because of the amount of misery he's gone through over the past 25, 30 years.
Who's your go-to writer? Like, you sit down, you got a night to kill, who do you read?
For just specifically Daredevil?
Yeah, Daredevil, yeah.
That's tough. So one of the big names for Daredevil is Frank Miller. And Frank Miller did a lot of stuff. He introduced us to Elektra, and then he killed her. And as much as I like that...
the death of a woman?
No. as much as that is iconic. The big issue comes into, those are very much 80s comics. So every time, one of his villains named Bullseye is on the page, there's always the internal monologue, thought cloud, or there's the narration box that says, oh no, it's Bullseye. In his hands, anything is a deadly weapon. No, I get it. You've said that. That's been dropped in every issue for 6 consecutive issues. So while I like Miller's writing on that, it's not necessary. I don't necessarily come back to it as often as I could. However, he also did great stories like The Man Without Fear, which is about Matt when he's kind of first getting started and he's in college and he's wearing that black outfit that we see in the Netflix series.
Oh, okay.
And also in the Trial of the Incredible Hulk. And he did Born Again. And Born Again's a really neat story. We'll get into that in a bit about, that is really, really iconic. It's kind of separate from the main continuity, and it's just fantastic. But my go-to, I'd have to say, is probably Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh, okay.
He wrote a ton on Daredevil, and he did some awesome, awesome stuff in there. Took him to some really dark places, too.
Now,
so probably Brian Michael Bendis.
Was he Marvel Knights Daredevil, or was
Yes.
he just... Okay, so he was Marvel Knights era.
Yeah, that sort of PG-13 Marvel Knights, which was a... Marvel Knights, for those of you that haven't necessarily heard it, you haven't necessarily heard it for good reason. It was a experiment that Marvel did in the early 2000s trying to create PG-13 comics that weren't necessarily the hard R of Marvel Max. It kind of morphed into Marvel Max. It didn't succeed all that much. Jess, you had a question?
Okay. So, listeners, I have a confession. I've never watched the Netflix series.
We're going to fix that. I'm going to finish Man in the High Castle, and then we're going to watch Daredevil.
I've never read any of the comics, and my first introduction to Daredevil was last weekend.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
Ben Affleck Daredevil.
We watched the
Director's cut.
Okay.
I know that is the point I have to make when I tell people that I've watched that movie at this point.
It improves a flawed movie as much as it can.
So, for our listeners like me who know absolutely nothing, I got lost in that first bit of conversation there. So, let's pull it back a little bit.
Okay.
So, in comparison to the movie, does Matt always lose his sight the same way?
Yeah, well, yes and no. The movie shows Matt running away from catching his father strong-arming an innocent person for a mob boss, and then a forklift driving into a toxic chemical which sprays into his eyes and blinds him. That's in the book. In the Daredevil comics, Daredevil sees a old man or a blind man or an old blind man, now you got me saying it, trying to cross the street and not realizing he's about to get hit by a truck. So Matt Murdock, as a kid, dives and tackles this guy out of there. And as the truck swerves to miss them, it was carrying radioactive isotope rods, and one of them gets out and breaks and gets into Matt's eyes, and that makes him blind, but also gives him his powers. When we get into the powers, this is one of the favorite conversations I've ever had with House. One of the earliest conversations I ever had after meeting House. We were talking about our favorite comic book characters, and I mentioned Daredevil. He said, why? I was like, if you think about it, Daredevil is the only comic book superhero known for what he can't do. If you ask somebody, tell me about Superman, oh, he can fly, he can do this, he can do this. What about Daredevil? He's blind. Okay, well, what are his powers? Well, he has superhuman... all of his other senses are heightened to compensate. So mainly his power is he can actually see. But he can also hear at great distances. He's got a very advanced sense of smell, taste, touch, everything.
Okay, so the next big defining part from the movie, what I picked up on, is his dad is killed.
Dad is always killed.
Is it always the same? And is he always blind, disabled before his dad passes?
Yes.
Okay.
So a big thing that they did in the movie, they kind of took the same route that the 1989 Batman took with the Joker. In Batman comics, Thomas and Martha Wayne are always dead. In the 1989 Batman, they made the Joker, before he became the Joker, kill his parents, Jack Napier. In the Daredevil movie, by Mark Steven Johnson, I think was the director's name, Jack Murdock, the boxer father of Daredevil, is murdered by Kingpin. In the comics, he's not. He's murdered by a thug who works for a guy called the Fixer. So the story that works out, in the movie, he was Jack the Devil Murdock. In the comics, he's battling Jack Murdock. He is a amateur pugilist, boxer, pug. And he throws fights so he can make money to support him and his son. Because after Matt went blind, his mother left. She couldn't handle it. His mother, Maggie Murdock.
Wait, she
yes.
just took off?
She took off. She couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle the responsibility and emotional strain of her blind son and her husband who was working with organized crime. She joins a convent, actually. She becomes a nun. She pops up every now and then, though. She helps Matt in times of great need.
Okay, so she's around.
Yeah. She's,
Barely.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, Jack decides he's not going to throw one fight that he's been paid to throw, and he gets murdered outside of the venue. And that sort of creates Matt's sense for justice, which he does in two forms. He becomes a lawyer by attending Columbia College. I'm going to have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's Columbia. With his friend and college roommate, Franklin Foggy Nelson. Electra also goes there. And he also becomes a vigilante, but he doesn't... Another thing where the movie deviates. They show Matt teaching himself how to fight and how to do everything. That is not how it went in the comics. In the comics, a mysterious blind man, old man, who's a ninja named Stick, shows up. And they do this in the show.
Yeah, they do.
Scott Glenn, and he's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
So good in that role. He is an abusive teacher. And he's part of a ninja organization called the Chaste that battles a evil ninja organization called the Hand. So that was a lot.
Is there ever like a medium ninja organization? You always get good and bad, but I want like that middle of the road ninja organization. You know, they'll rob a bank, but they're also having a bake sale.
You mean a fruit ninja?
Ooh.
There you go. Yeah.
I must have missed the zeitgeist on that one. I don't.
Yeah, Matt Murdock, I just double-checked my sources. He did go to Columbia College.
So, in the movie, is it accurate that, like, because all of his other senses are heightened, I mean, are they showing it accurately how he's able to see the world around him?
Yeah, so in the comics they do it a bunch of different ways. It's just dependent on who the artist is. I liked how they did it in the movie. I think that was one of the stronger points of the movie, was getting to see his point of view. In the Netflix show, he describes it as he sees a world on fire. They show a few things from his perspective, but not a whole lot. That's actually one of the reasons that, they thought about making a Daredevil video game that was along the lines of Spider-Man. I like the idea because I like the character. And I think once the Batman Arkham games came along, his advanced senses would be used like the detective vision.
Yeah.
But being able to see him and everything, if you're playing as him, seems weird. So I think the best experience would be to turn off your TV and just play the game with your surround sound system and a blank screen and a controller.
That's the difficult version, though.
Right. Yeah, that's hardcore. That's the most advanced difficulty.
Yeah.
Devil
Legendary.
difficulty. Right. So little background on the character. He was actually in the early 60s. In his early comics, he was kind of cheesy. So originally his costume was bright yellow, mostly yellow with sort of a red singlet. And that was in his first appearance in Daredevil #1 in 1964. And he kept that costume until Daredevil #6. Then in 7, he was in the red costume that people are most familiar with. And he was very much a cheesy 60s superhero with cheesy villains. Oh, my God. Let's see. Leapfrog and Stilt Man.
Yeah, see, that right there is a villain that I've heard. I never even heard of him until it was one of the first episodes, one of the early episodes of season 1. They're like, "Oh, you can see the Stilt Man stilts in what's his name's workshop." I'm like, who in the Blind Crabs is Stilt Man?
I don't remember the character's alter ego, but he's basically a thief that goes around in a stilt suit that makes him taller than most buildings in Hell's Kitchen and just robs stuff.
Makes sense.
And it's easy for him to go down because you just take him down like an Imperial Walker in Star Wars. Just trip him up and he's down. He's a
There's
joke.
a lot of there's a lot of construction in that part of New York. So I'm surprised he didn't catch a pothole and just fall down.
Right, exactly. And the section of New York that he lives in is called Hell's Kitchen. Nowadays it's called Clinton. And one thing I think people that outside of New York don't necessarily understand is New York in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s was a very scary place. And it didn't really matter, for the most part, what neighborhood you went into, especially your smaller ones like Hell's Kitchen, which is only 6 blocks, something like that. It's pretty small.
It's not real big.
Yeah, it's not all that huge. So setting a superhero there was kind of a great idea, because there was no shortage of crime for him to take on. And he's what's typically referred to as a street level guy.
Punch, kick, fighter.
Right. He doesn't deal with your Thanoses. He doesn't deal with your Galactus level threats.
Is that why we haven't seen him in the films of MCU? Just the TV shows?
We haven't seen him in the MCU because they refuse to incorporate anything. So the MCU is allowed to affect the TV shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Netflix universe. Those shows are not allowed to affect the MCU at all.
Oh,
They don't really interact, except, I don't even think Phil Coulson has been back on screen since he was supposedly killed in the first Avengers movie. He's been on
the next time
Agents of
he's
S.H.I.E.L.D.
on major screen is a flashback movie, so...
Right, exactly. So before we get into any more, sort of detail here, as I keep rambling on and on, let's go ahead and jump into one of our newer segments. We've been doing it for a few months. One of our favorites. It's time for Wookiee's Kid.
Wookie, how's your kid?
She's doing good.
And that was Wookie's Kid. Tune into our next episode to see if Wookie's Kid is still, in fact, good.
Love it. And we are back. So we were talking earlier about the Daredevil movie, what was accurate, what was inaccurate. We got, I think we got still kind of a few more questions about Daredevil. So what did anybody have?
Well, except we've talked about the movie and how the things that's gotten done. It's done right, but the things that are wrong about the movie, that's well documented. We don't necessarily dive into that. The TV show has gotten things a lot better, especially the characterizations of Matt's, the people that are close to him.
Right.
The Karen Pages, the Foggy Nelsons. Like, as the diehard Daredevil fan that you are, what is it about those relationships that he has with, like, Foggy that is so integral to that character?
So, a couple of things kind of factor in there. So first of all, we have Foggy. That is Franklin Nelson. That was Matt's college roommate. They went to Columbia College together. They both graduated in the law program. And then they opened their own law firm, Nelson and Murdock, Attorneys at Law, World's Best Avocados. You'll get that when we go to watching the series.
Because right now it's not funny.
Yeah. I could explain it, but I think that was a good joke. So Foggy, there's a very distinct division that's made between Foggy and Matt. Mm-hmm. And that is mostly in the courtroom. Matt can work a jury like nobody's business. He can work the courtroom. Foggy has a ridiculous knowledge of legal precedents and procedure, and can research like nobody's business. He's not necessarily as charismatic behind the bench, but behind the desk. I guess the bench is where the judge is. But Foggy is very, very good. But Foggy also kind of grounds Matt a little bit, because Matt, being Daredevil and an attorney, if someone slips through the legal system, he figures he can get him with vigilante justice, and Foggy helps him kind of see the error of that when that error needs to be shown, when there's still legal avenues that they can take. That's where Foggy comes in. He acts as a moral center and a voice of reason for Matt very, very, very often. He's a really great character, and he's somebody that, he's not a thin, fit guy. He's a little overweight. He's a little clumsy. He's not that good with women, though arguably neither is Matt. Matt has a wealth of dead women.
And like I said, Karen Page, because I think Daredevil's relationship with the hero / villainous of Elektra is pretty well documented. With her being a member of the Hand and being an assassin and stuff like that. They're on again, off again.
Leader at one point. Even.
Leader of the Hand at one point, but like Karen Page and him being with Karen was a pretty big deal, especially with what happened to her.
Yeah, so Karen Page worked at Nelson and Murdock for a very long time, and then it's funny. There was a point where people were getting too suspicious that Matt Murdock might be Daredevil, so he created a fake twin named Mike Murdock, who didn't necessarily who pretended he wasn't blind, and was more brash and outgoing than Matt, and that way they could and that way they could sort of pin Daredevil on Mike Murdock. Well, the problem is Karen started to fall for this fake twin, which was Matt the whole time. It wasn't a clone. It wasn't a life model decoy. It was Matt pretending to be this guy, Mike.
Did he have different glasses on?
He wore blue glasses.
So, yeah. Which they actually just brought him back in the comics, which is weird because he's a second guy. So that's really interesting. And I'm curious to see where that goes.
Triplet?
No. No. It's a separate person entirely. And I'm interested. They haven't really resolved it yet, so I'm interested to see where it goes. But yeah, Karen fell for Mike Murdock, and then Matt revealed that he was Daredevil because he can only lie for so long. He's got a lot of Catholic guilt built in. He grew up as an Irish Catholic kid, and Catholicism, Catholic guilt, and religion play huge into Daredevil comics. So eventually, yeah, he reveals that he's that Matt Murdock reveals that he's Daredevil. They continue their relationship, but then eventually Karen leaves, and she goes to the West Coast and tries to become an actress, which doesn't work. She becomes a heroin addict. And
I was going to ask, did she get addicted to drugs?
She did. She became a massive heroin addict and started sleeping around a lot. Think of Jenny from Forrest Gump when she goes to the West Coast. And eventually that leads to she comes back to New York in the Frank Miller story Born Again. And because she needs a fix so bad, she sells Daredevil's secret identity to the Kingpin.
What a bitch.
For a fix. And Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, who is in the movie, is in the TV show, and wasn't originally a Daredevil villain. We'll get into that. He uses that information to dismantle Matt's life inside and out. Dismantles his business practice at Nelson and Murdock, dismantles his personal life, dismantles his professional life, dismantles his vigilante life. And it leads to Matt going in plain clothes for a throwdown slugfest. I mean, it is the ass beating of a lifetime.
Now, do you see this is where the Netflix series might head? Do you think they will taint that Karen character so much to do that?
No, I don't. Okay, so with the trailers that we've gotten
over, with the trailers Punisher and
with the trailers that we've gotten, showing Kingpin, I think he's going to be that dangerous in season 3. But I don't see them pushing it so far as to give Karen a heroin addiction. Okay. I think if they were going to do that, they would have done it after the first season, when she goes through a bit of trauma, and kind of laid the groundwork there. But they haven't yet, so I hope they don't, because it would be just too sudden.
Yeah. Well, and Wookie makes a good point. Like the Karen Page character has branched out now and is a major player in the Punisher series because she's kind of a huge moral string for Frank Castle,
right?
That is keeping him grounded, not just killing everybody.
Right. Well, and Daredevil and Punisher cross paths a lot in the comics.
Is that the redhead?
Yeah.
Yeah, Strawberry Blonde,
Yes. Yeah, Deborah Ann Wool, I think, is the actress's name.
So,
and it was Ellen Pompeo in the movie.
And you mentioned that, like, okay, him and Punisher have crossed paths many times. He's operating in New York, so he's going to cross paths with other heroes. I think one of my favorite stories was like Matt had gotten arrested at one point and is sitting in jail. And I mean, I'll let you tell the story, the moment from the comics, because you do it better than I do.
So, okay, Yes, he crosses over with a lot of people. One of the most common team-ups for the longest time, especially in the 80s and 90s, was Spider-Man and Daredevil. Daredevil appeared in the Spider-Man cartoon as well. The story you're referring to is called The Devil Inside and Out. It was by Ed Brubaker, who followed Brian Michael Bendis' run, and put Matt Murdock in jail. Because during the Bendis run, Civil War happened. And eventually, Matt had to decide if he was going to go public with his identity or become a fugitive of the law, of the Superhuman Registration Act. Or Superhero Registration Act, I can't remember which one it is. So he decides to unmask, and he gets put in jail for his vigilante actions. And I'm pretty sure disbarred from New York and New Jersey, probably. So he winds up in jail. Well, Frank Castle reads this on the street and puts down his paper, and he sees, I think it's a drug dealer or a guy beating his girlfriend, and walks over and just kills him. And there's cops right there, and Frank knows there's cops right there. So when the cops, come over, they tell him, "Put your hands up, a-hole." And he raises his hands up just enough that his coat opens and they can see the Punisher skull on his shirt. And the cops literally have a moment where they go, "Oh shit!" Because they're terrified. And the whole plan was, he knew Matt was going to be in Rikers Island with the Kingpin, with Bullseye, and with a number of other villains, Melvin Potter, etc. That he'd put there. So Matt was going into a very dangerous situation. And I believe the Kingpin had paid a lot of very powerful people to get him there so he could get him. So yeah, Frank was trying to protect him.
So he crosses paths with Punisher a fair bit. Mm-hmm. He teams up with Spider-Man a whole lot.
And Daredevil and Luke Cage.
Yeah, so one common theme, though, with superheroes is other people take mantles of. Like, you get Dick Grayson becoming Batman for a little bit.
Doc Ock becomes Spider-Man.
Yeah, like a lot of weird stuff. Has anyone ever took over for Daredevil, or is that just Matt Murdock?
Yeah, actually, so the first one I can recall was Iron Fist. Danny Rand became Daredevil for a little bit, and that was while Matt was in prison.
Oh, okay.
So that they could try to cast doubt on... Because, hey, if Daredevil's in prison, why is he still active on the streets? Why are people still seeing him?
That makes sense.
So that was to try to get him out of jail. Ultimately, he got out with a jailbreak and the Danny Rand defense, basically. So Danny Rand, Iron Fist, is Daredevil for a while. And then, after Daredevil gets to a really dark point... he goes away for a while. T'Challa protects Hell's Kitchen in his stead for about 6 issues.
T'Challa being Black Panther? T'Challa?
Black Panther.
Comes in as Daredevil.
Yes.
Does he have the goodness of his heart, or did somebody call him in and say, "Hey, Hell's Kitchen needs a devil"?
Yeah, pretty much. So the storyline that so we'll go. We'll jump around a bit here. One of the big things with Daredevil is for 25, 30 years, his life kept getting consistently crappier. Frank Miller introduced Elektra, which was a love interest and a long-time love interest, and then had the villain Bullseye, who has a preternatural perfect aim. He had Bullseye kill Elektra, just murder her, which devastated Matt. He finds Karen Page. Falls in love with her. Well, Kevin Smith had Bullseye kill Karen Page in the same church where Matt's mother is a nun, after Bullseye smacked Daredevil's mother around for a bit.
Did Bullseye know it was Daredevil's mother,
Nope.
or just a nun?
Just not a clue. Just a nun.
I love Kevin Smith.
Then Brian Michael Bendis comes in, and Matt finds a woman named Mia Donovan, who's also blind. And they actually get married. Daredevil has a wife. He still has a wife to this day, I believe. They may have gotten divorced during Charles Soule, Mark Waid's run. I think they did, actually. So anyway, and then Bullseye tries to kill Mia, sneaks into their apartment at night. Now, how did he know that was Daredevil's wife? Early on in Bendis' run, Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, who was originally a Spider-Man villain, but became kind of an iconic Daredevil villain, he has a wife named Vanessa, who's in the TV show. And they have a kid. I can't remember his name. Well, he figures out that his dad knows the identity of Daredevil. He goes, why the F hasn't anybody done anything about this? So he tries to strike out on his own, and that information goes public. Ultimately, that kid, well, not kid, he's a 20-something year old mobster.
A punk.
Yeah.
Because
He gets murdered
Oh.
on a hit organized by Vanessa. As evil as Wilson Fisk, as evil as the Kingpin can be, Vanessa can be much more evil.
So
She is
Vanessa put a
conniving
hit out and
on
it
her own
succeeded
kid.
on her own kid.
Yep.
All
But,
right.
but enough of that information got out to the wrong people that Bullseye eventually found it out. So Bullseye sneaks into Matt's apartment and catches Mia there while she's asleep, scares the ever-living crap out of her. So Matt catches it just in time, throws him out the window, and they have a brief fight on the street below. And this Bullseye is clearly based on the one that was in the movie.
Oh, so he's branded on the forehead?
No, not at the start.
No.
He is by the end.
Oh,
no.
I'm
Matt-
so glad I asked that
Matt is
question.
so mad that he starts trash talking Bullseye personally. Now, the only thing we know about Bullseye is his first name. It may be Lester, and he says, "I went looking for you, Lester. You know what? While back, I decided I was going to find you and kill you in your sleep. I was going to kill you, and no one would ever know I did it. And in looking for you, I finally found out all about that big mystery that is you, your secret origin. And I know why it's a secret. It's pathetic.
Oh no.
I know about your prostitute of a mommy and how you don't even know who your daddy is. I know what happened to you in high school. I know, and after finding out your entire pathetic, uninteresting story, I know why. I know why you keep coming around here. You keep coming around here because you want me to put you out of your misery because you don't have the guts to do it yourself. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not getting sucked into your nightmare because I just don't care. I don't care about you. No one cares. You're an animal. Your mommy doesn't care. Your daddy never cared. No one cares if you live or die. You mean nothing. You are nothing." He notices Bullseye has a tattoo of a bullseye, the Bullseye logo on his forehead. Matt picks up a jagged piece of rock and carves it into his forehead.
Ooh.
Dark. So then eventually he beats the ever-living hell out of the Kingpin in one of the most exciting sequences because they had a bunch of different artists from Daredevil history come in and each draw a panel of the fight.
Nice.
It's really cool. But then the T'Challa thing, we fast forward a couple years, several years actually, and the Kingpin has decided he wants to take over the secret ninja organization, the Hand, who are ninja terrorists. Matt isn't going to deal with that. He takes control of the Hand himself, which is dangerous because you go a bit crazy and are basically evil. And he erects this huge, Japanese tower in the middle of Hell's Kitchen called Shadowland. And the combined strength of Danny Rand, Luke Cage, Moon Knight, even Ghost Rider go to stop him. And once he's stopped, he takes a sabbatical basically from Hell's Kitchen. And as a favor to him and the man he used to be, T'Challa is Black Panther Man Without Fear for about 4 to 6 issues. It's not very long.
Yeah.
And after that is when when Mark Waid took over the book.
Okay. Now, when T'Challa takes over, is he still red suit, red everything, or does he change the suit up? Does he do anything crazy with it?
Well,
Probably
okay,
had
so
claws.
he's actually he doesn't take up the suit. He's still Black Panther. He's just watching Hell's Kitchen.
Oh,
So
okay.
Danny Rand was really the only person to don the covered eyes.
Yeah, pretty much. The covered eyes, nice. Yeah.
Right. So
No point in being able to see his eyes. They would give it away. He's blind. His eyes are literally scarred. Give it away.
So you talked about that huge encounter with Bullseye, and we've talked about
I love it. It's so dark.
because I've always thought that we talk about superheroes in comics really only being as good as their villains in a lot of cases,
Right.
And like the Flash with their Rogues Gallery, Batman with the Joker, Superman with his his foray of people. Daredevil has always seemed to me he's got really just 3 main ones: Kingpin, Bullseye, and then
Elektra.
oh yeah, Elektra. I mean, on again, off again villains.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the third one I was thinking of the
Hand.
no, the chick that
Typhoid Mary.
Typhoid Mary. So I have a question about her here in just a minute, but the overall relationship that Daredevil, that Matt Murdock has with Bullseye, who, as far as the comics are concerned, has no backstory,
Right.
has no name other than possibly Lester.
Right.
Because I think I at one point asked you, okay, is Bullseye essentially Marvel's Joker? I mean, he's a little bit more put together psychologically.
It's more like Marvel's Deadshot.
Well, see, I've always like the only real thing I've read that has Bullseye in it is that Thunderbolts run.
Yeah.
And in that, it really sells. That book really sells Bullseye as unhinged, and the only thing. I mean, he's an assassin. He's basically the best assassin. He's very good at what he does, and makes a lot of money doing it.
Yeah.
But it seems like the only thing that he can think about from sunup to sundown is I need to kill somebody, and it's this animal. He seems like a rabid dog, and it seemed to me that adversarial, like that's the core of it. Is there is so much hatred between Daredevil and Bullseye, and that is, I mean, from beginning to end, there's no respect there. There's no, I mean, it is animosity from beginning to end.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say Bullseye's unhinged, and I wouldn't necessarily say he's a rabid dog. He's a dog with a very high predatory drive.
Okay.
He's a thrill killer. He kills for the mere thrill. He's good at it, and he likes
murder
doing
boners.
it. And yeah, exactly. And he likes doing it. But Bullseye doesn't like to be contained or told what to do. You can tell Bullseye what to do if you pay him. That's it. And if anybody pays him more, odds are he's going to listen to what they say, because he's an assassin. He's a hitman at heart. I actually reread Daredevil number 131 a couple weeks ago, which is the first appearance of Bullseye, and he literally just comes up out of nowhere. He kills a couple people. He actually kills one person by throwing a paper airplane through a... No, he threatens one person by throwing a paper airplane through a high-rise window.
Oh.
That's how good he is.
Question.
I have so many. Yeah, I have physics questions. But no, there's not a whole lot of respect there. Bullseye, that Daredevil represents sort of the one contract he's never been able to complete. And he is, I would say, the most he's the Darth Vader in how iconic he is. And the Kingpin is the Emperor. He's the power behind that iconic villain, and probably just as iconic, but in a different way.
So, like I said, I have a question about Typhoid Mary, but before we get to that, I know our listeners are wondering, how did Dave try to become a superhero? Last week, he summoned some demons trying to become... I mean, he was trying real hard to become John Constantine. He bought a trench coat. Dude smoked 40 packs of cigarettes in 3 days. Drank so much coffee, our house smells like Brazil.
Yeah. I'm still not recovered from what I witnessed.
I know.
Or smell.
Would we call that a success?
Almost.
No, because he was possessed by a demon. Like, I mean, he wasn't able to defeat the demon. Do you remember how much money we spent on those exorcisms just this past week? It was a nightmare. Yeah. It was a nightmare.
Personally, I thought Pazuzu was a nice guy.
Why'd you say that?
No.
So
I thought I was tripping in for a stripper.
Hey! That was the after party. It's not my fault that you left. So, Dave.
Yes.
This past week, how did you attempt to become a superhero?
This week, I finally decided I was going to try to become Batman.
Again?
I do not have...
Shit.
Have we checked in
extraordinarily wealthy parents with that would give me a ridiculous inheritance, so I didn't go that route. And I actually did martial arts for a number of years, and I still remember how to do quite a bit of that. But becoming Batman and getting into that mindset, there's so many steps, and it's such a journey. And obviously, I'm not Batman, but I learned a lot of lessons along the way, and probably the most important one I learned is you can't just steal orphaned kids. There are forms you have to fill out.
Have we checked the bad room lately?
Damn
It's
it.
called the Bat Room.
I was on that. I was running alongside that train. I didn't know where I was going, and it turned, and I didn't expect it.
I don't have much going on. Dave, can I volunteer to be your Alfred?
Do you know how to make fishy swab?
Sure, I'll
It's
learn.
supposed to be cold.
Oh,
Serve cold.
oh, that's wrong. Then.
Yeah, you know what? Screw it. We'll do a trial run.
Cool.
Yeah. You know, you'll
Jeez,
either be Alfred or you'll be Jason Todd. We'll see how it goes.
You
Oh.
have a crowbar.
Okay.
Well, that was
We don't. That's actually the
Dave
problem.
trying to become a superhero this week. I'm gonna have to fill out so much paperwork.
I'm starting to get
It's okay. I already did.
First the orphanage, then wasn't he at the pool trying to be Aquaman? And like,
Yeah.
Oh God, these segments have developed a pattern.
yes, they have.
Dave's on a list now.
Yes, he is.
I told you I was on that list ever since we played that first game of Black Orchestra, and I was looking for mood music.
That's very true.
God, that game's so good.
So my question about Typhoid Mare, we were just recently watching Jessica Jones season 2.
Yeah.
And I had heard
Iron Fist season 2.
Iron Fist season 2. Sorry, I had heard the name, of the character Typhoid Mary, but it wasn't until you started bringing up that she is a serious issue and is more or less really a Daredevil villain.
I've only encountered her as a Daredevil villain. I'll put
okay.
it that way.
Well, from what you were alluding to was, holy shit, she is an issue when she comes around.
Oh yeah, she actually pops up in Daredevil Hardcore by during the Bendis run. So, but
Wait,
yeah,
before we jump into that, because I saw you watching the show, I jumped in and watched like 20 minutes
Iron
of
Fist
an
season 2, yeah.
Oh, was okay, but
was
she
Iron
was
Fist.
in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Same person. What's her deal?
Dissociative identity disorder,
Okay.
formerly
Layman's
known as multiple personality disorder.
So, and she has different abilities with each.
New.
Okay.
She's got
So not quite split level.
right, exactly. It's more like she. I think she's mostly unaware that she has
Oh, I almost
the
gave up some
talents that she
spoilers.
has when she's not just sort of Mary Walker. When she's Mary Walker, she's a affable person. And actually, I think that was Ann Nesenti that created. Yeah, it was Ann Nesenti and John Romita Jr. that created her, and she popped up in Daredevil in 1988 as Typhoid Mary. But she was just sort of Mary Walker. Her and Matt had a relationship. Like before the Typhoid Mary part came out.
His love life sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a
Makes me feel
relationship
good about
with
myself.
her.
Barely.
And what happened was that fracture, that split, didn't occur until Matt tracked a villain down to the brothel where Mary worked. And he attacked the guy, and the girls of the brothel got a little bit close, and Matt kind of lashed out, and he knocked Mary out a window. Jerry, what's up?
So
Wookie, what's up?
Mary worked at a brothel as a worker or just as a bartender?
I don't recall, because she was just sort of a hit woman, really.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to be nice. Me like, she worked at a brothel. Who doesn't?
She's kind of just I think that may have just been where she sort of her base of operations, but I'm not.
Okay.
I didn't.
Okay.
That's outside of that 20 years that I've read. So that's kind of in that hazy area where I haven't read. Ann Nesenti and Fabian Vincenza, I didn't read a whole lot of theirs. Or Fabian, my bad. But yeah, when she gets knocked out the window, she has that split, and she kind of promises herself she's never going to let a man hurt her again.
Oh, okay.
And I think that part of Matt's attraction to that was also eventually he knew when she was becoming Bloody Mary or Typhoid Mary, who is super violent and pyrokinetic and a hell of a fighter.
Oh.
I think he kind of thought he could fix her. And that's one of those sort of relatable elements, because I think plenty of people have been in situations where they think they can fix their partner, or they think their partner can fix them.
I gotta tell you,
Jess is just nodding.
Yeah, she's been trying to fix me. It's just not working. Matt Murdock is really gonna stop dipping his pen in Company Inc.
Yeah.
Because he has a relationship with his receptionist.
Yep.
And at least 2 female villains.
Yep.
Like, he's gotta maybe just
chill,
tuck it away for a bit.
Yeah.
The
just
one
Buffalo Billet.
Yeah.
Would you fuck me?
The one person I thought that the one person I was surprised he never got into a relationship with. There was a character called Echo, from
Echo.
Daredevil. Echo was the name of the story, which was Joe Quesada, I think, wrote it. And she was really cool. She was actually deaf. So it was like See No Evil, Hear No Evil, the Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder movie.
And Saturday nights it was Taste No Evil.
Echo could, but Echo could sort of just see what someone was doing and mimic it kind of perfectly. She was actually a concert pianist and an expert martial artist. And I believe she was Native American, and her father is killed, I believe, and she wears this white handprint on her face in a tribute to him. But she was a really fascinating character that I wish would pop up a little bit more. And I almost wish I kind of shipped them. I don't know why I did that. I made a scissor movement. My bad.
I'm just shocked I heard him use the terminology of I shipped them.
Yeah.
I was not expecting
that. For those of
you
you that aren't ridiculous TV fans, ship means when you wish 2 characters that are not otherwise in a relationship in fiction would get together. Supernatural fandom does it with Dean and Cass all the time.
Well, and Sam and Dean. Like, there's a whole subculture of Supernatural fans.
Whoa, hey, stop subtexting over there.
I mean, take a subtext step back there, ladies.
That's what it is. So yeah, he makes tragic decisions when it comes to females. Ugh.
So
God.
we, as we talked about, we've got season 3 coming up. We've covered a lot about Daredevil, who he is, the Catholic guild, the skills that he has, the powers that he has.
Does he have any pets?
No. One thing I loved about the movie was Jon Favreau is Foggy.
Yeah.
They have a conversation in a coffee shop early on about Matt's failure in love life because his girlfriend breaks up with him via voicemail or answering machine. And they're talking in the coffee shop, and he's talking about Foggy's talking about Matt's emotional unavailability. And he's like, remember I got you that seeing eye dog? I didn't want a dog, Foggy. It ran away. Matt, seeing eye dogs bond for life. Maybe that should tell you something about how emotionally available you are.
Nice.
Jon Favreau was so good in that role.
He was
Kevin Smith was also in that movie.
Yes,
he was.
You know what the name of his character was? Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby.
That movie was laced with references to all the different authors. Frank Miller is a dead body in it.
Oh, nice.
Quesada is the name of the villain is the name of the thug that Daredevil goes after in the train station. When the Fixer is talking to Jack Murdock before the fight that he's supposed to throw, but he doesn't, he mentions his last couple of matches and how he shouldn't have won them, and he mentions Miller, Mack, Bendez.
Nice.
So yeah, he mentions all these
I will
all these
say,
little throwbacks.
like, I appreciated watching that movie with you because every time it came up, you'd point it out.
Yeah,
Right.
It was like having little movie pop-ups. Oh, another thing I do hope for in season 3, they've had Melvin Potter, who is a costume designer, like a costume designer in the comics. They had him make the Kingpin's, kind of bulletproof or knife-proof suits, and they had him make Daredevil suit in the TV show. Melvin Potter is the Gladiator. I want to see Melvin Potter as the Gladiator, which is another Daredevil villain who blames Daredevil for the loss of his wife. He's neat. I mean, it's a very 60s, 70s, character design, but he's one of those. Even Bendis and Brubaker brought him in, and he was neat. Also, there's a Lady Bullseye that Brubaker created.
Weird. costume.
Yeah, so Jess is rocking a Punisher shirt, which makes me so happy.
Mhm.
We know Punisher just got done filming season 2.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay, well, now we know Punisher just got done filming season 2. Punisher was in Daredevil season 2.
Yes.
Any word on the street if my boy Frankie is going to appear in Daredevil season 2?
I was actually curious about that myself because Netflix didn't announce until a week or so ago, as we record this, that Daredevil season 3 was even coming this year. They said nothing about it. So we the only thing, and Dave has mentioned this to me, that the actor who is supposedly playing Bullseye let it slip via like a LinkedIn page or
I think it was
whatever.
his personal trainer that did it.
Yeah, so whatever it was, so it's like that's how we know that Bullseye's probably going to be in it. Yeah. But any involvement of Frank being in it, but now that
all we know is Kingpin.
Yeah, we know
like as far as
Kingpin.
Trailers, all we know is Kingpin.
So that leads me. I've got two questions. The last questions I have for as far as covering Daredevil is question one is what do you hope to see out of season 3? Because I know you've loved the first 2 seasons. What is it that you're hoping to see more than anything out of season 3?
Okay. I hope that Kingpin gets out of jail and dismantles Matt's personal life. I hope that Bullseye shows up, and I hope that Bullseye has a Bullseye costume. I want to see a Bullseye costume. I really, really do, because I like how they did Daredevils. I think that's really cool. It looks a lot like looks kind of how they built Captain America's. Yeah. So I like that. That sort of fiber mesh and everything like that. So I want a Bullseye costume. I want to see Elektra come back. And I want to see Elektra murdered. I don't want to see Karen all of a sudden having a heroin addiction. Karen all of a sudden selling his identity for a fix. Because this is only a 10-episode season. It's not 13.
Right.
Oh, so are they kind of learning about the middle drought? I always think
I think they're learning to. I think they're learning to make as many episodes as they have content for, and not try to create content for as many episodes as they have.
Because Iron Fist was shorter too, right?
It was only 10.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
And I think Luke Cage season 2 was only 10.
Oh, you mean a studio that listens to their fans?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to see more of the Punisher, Daredevil and Bullseye. And less Born Again.
Okay.
Work up to Born Again, because or let Born Again kind of be the season finale. And honestly, end it on a down note. End it Empire Strikes Back, because this is a character that goes through a lot of crap, goes through a lot of hardship. Friggin' take it to him. Charlie Cox can handle it. He does a great job in that role, man.
Oh, yeah.
Don't give Foggy cancer. Don't give Karen AIDS. Karen may or may not have AIDS before she died. Don't kill. I don't think they need to kill off Karen or Foggy. I think the surprise character death in the first season, which I'm not going to spoil for Jess, was. I didn't like it. I like that character, and that's kind of an integral character to the whole Daredevil thing, but. I don't know. I want to see an honest-to-goodness Bullseye, and I want to see another great hallway fight. Ooh, yeah.
Which they keep doing really well. And
I don't want to see Punisher or any other character shoehorned in. Have a reason. I don't think there's anything for the Punisher to do.
Now, in season 1, didn't they hint at Bullseye as one of the police snipers or something like that? Or is that just fan fiction of us writing that in?
Okay, I remember this. I also remember the Dark Knight. Remember the Dark Knight, the movie?
Right.
Yeah.
Bruce asks for a new bat suit.
Right.
Yeah.
Gets a new bat suit. Asks Lucius how to do against dogs. He says Rottweilers or Chihuahuas. He says should do fine against cats. Everyone on the internet took that to mean 5 out of 7 perfect. Catwoman confirmed for 3rd movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Catwoman ended up being in the movie, but I don't think that was a confirmation that she was going to be in it.
Okay.
I think that what it was is during an episode where he's trapped in a building, there's a police sniper who happens to have an ace of spades in his bag, in his shooting bag. I don't think that was necessarily supposed to confirm that was Bullseye, because here's the thing. Playing cards are a common target for sharpshooters.
They are. Yeah.
They are very small targets. You have to be very accurate to hit the middle of them.
I learned that from the SWAT movie, which starred Bullseye.
Yeah, Colin Farrell. So I don't think that was necessarily saying Bullseye coming soon, because if they were going to do that, they'd have done it in season 2.
Okay.
And there was nothing in season 2 hinting at Bullseye.
No, there wasn't.
At all.
Yeah.
So I think that was just something that fans went a little
Or just
overboard with.
to excite the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have
To
been.
tease. I mean,
I like a good
I'd
tease.
do it.
I mean, they had plenty of things in the first 2 seasons that were in there. I mean, you had the character of Leland Owlsley, who is the owl, who's a neat character in his own right. They took the Purple Man and put him in Jessica Jones, so they messed with it a little, but they've had plenty of sort of fan service and winks and nods and Easter eggs that I don't necessarily think that people need to take as gospel. Oh, they're going to do this.
Yeah, the term Easter egg got kind of broken, not that at some point, because Easter egg used to just mean, oh, this little thing that if you were quote unquote in the know, you would know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became this thing like, okay, here's a piece of the set, or here's a line of dialogue that now means that has to lead to something, or it's a road sign of, okay,
It's more
what's
of a
coming up.
breadcrumb than an Easter egg.
Right. No, an Easter egg is just something. It's a neat thing that you find. You usually have to go look for it. You had to know what you were looking for to see it.
One of my favorites was the first Captain America movie, when it's the Stark Expo that Steve and Bucky go to.
Yep.
As they pan over it, the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond, is in a glass display case. He was an android. He was the first Marvel Comics superhero in Marvel Comics #1. That was an Easter egg.
Yeah.
He didn't move. He didn't flame on. He didn't light up on fire or anything like that. He was just there. And if you knew what Jim Hammond looked like when he wasn't on fire, you'd have gone, "Oh, that's really neat."
Right.
But,
Or
Adam Warlock's pod in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, which they retconned in the second one.
Right.
Or Tony asking Coulson for the shield to help build his Tubi thing to make the new.
Yeah. That was leading somewhere, though.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more the edge of what an Easter egg
Right.
should be. Yeah, that's the breaking point I think we were
Right.
talking about.
And actually, now that I think about the TV shows borrowing just from Daredevil, Jessica Jones borrowed Purple Man. Jessica Jones also borrowed Nuke. Nuke pops up a lot in Daredevil comics.
Yeah.
He's a crazy ex-soldier who takes red, white, and blue pills for different effects.
And he
usually has an American flag
Yeah.
like drawn on his face.
shows
Oh,
up
yeah.
with Punisher too, and then
Yeah.
Wolverine some too.
Yeah, he does pop up a lot.
Yeah.
So the question I asked Wookiee this when we did the Punisher episode, I think it's the same question I ask basically when they say this is my favorite character, because people ask me, okay, why do you like Superman so much? What is it about Daredevil that rings so true, so deeply with you that he is the one above all? That's, I mean, I know Flash is really high up on your list, but when I'm thinking about getting gifts for Dave, I have to go, does he want the Daredevil version of this or the Flash version of this? If I can pick, like, I gotta figure out which one should I do, because which one's he gonna like more. But I know that Daredevil, it takes that #1 spot.
There's a neat one at Fantasy Shop by my work, by the way. A yellow Daredevil.
Oh, okay.
I've liked Daredevil since I was a kid. When I first saw him in a couple of comics and the Spider-Man animated series. I don't know what it was. I think it was just cool that he was blind, but he was still a superhero. But Daredevil did appear earlier than that in the Trial of the Incredible Hulk. As I got older and I started really diving into Daredevil comics, it became very apparent that he was just written better. I never read better dialogue, better situations, and so, like, I've never seen Superman. I've seen Superman go through the physical ringer. I've seen him get beaten to death. I've never seen his personal life decimated. I've never seen him broken as a person. And I think everyone at some point in their life feels like that. That they just feel broken as a human being, whether it's some kind of a breakup, a professional crisis, waking up next to someone and realizing you have no idea who they are anymore, going through a divorce, being mentally or physically or emotionally abused. There's comes a point in time where everyone feels broken. I've never seen that written as well as I have in a Daredevil comic, and in spite of year after year after year of how much worse can it get, he still finds a way to almost to fight through that, almost to spite life and circumstance itself. I think that's sort of that the brilliance and the verisimilitude, the truth of the writing is what drew me close to it. Now I actually have to see if verisimilitude is the word I was looking for.
I don't know, but it was really sexy when you used it.
Yeah, the appearance of being true or real. Yeah, Richard Donner actually used to keep that in his office when filming Superman. He had verisimilitude. So that sort of truth to the human condition and the complexity of his work with his vigilante life, with his faith. I thought I've just never seen a character so deeply layered.
Awesome.
And then eventually Mark Waid, when he got a hold of it, said, "I'm going to make his life better. Like, I'm going to make him not get so freaking tortured all the time." And Charles Soules continued that run, but has promised that he's going to take Daredevil to such a low that the next writer's not going to know how to dig him out of it, because Miller did that, Smith did that to Bendis, Bendis did that to Brubaker, Brubaker did that to Aaron, I think is who followed him, and then Aaron did that to Wade. Like, it's some kind of inside joke at Marvel.
Rite of passage.
Yeah, just
you want
about.
to take Daredevil, you got to dig him out of this hole.
Right, exactly.
So that's
All right.
Daredevil.
Yep. So I think that about does it for Nerdsplain It this week. Don't forget, if you have any questions pertaining to what we talked about today, or what we talked about any other day, or characters you'd like to hear us talk about, or subjects you'd like to hear us talk about, contact the helpline at 805-669-7230. It is a voicemail line, so just leave us a message. Don't forget to leave us a review. Let us know, what did you like about this episode? What did you not like about this episode? We're always looking to improve. Catch us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere your media is social. And then don't forget to tell your friends, tell your family. And if you want exclusive access to exclusive content that nobody gets anywhere else, hit us up on Patreon. Make a donation, and we will do the best we can to make it worth your while. Anybody else got anything?
Well, for only $3 a month, you get early access to episodes. $5 a month will get you bonus content. So bonus episodes that you will not be able to access anywhere else.
Nice.
Only $2 more. That seems worth it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so that
Later,
does it
nerds.
So that does it here at the Nerdsplain It headquarters. On behalf of Greg, who couldn't be here, Kat, who couldn't be there, Wookie, say goodbye to the fine people.
Goodbye to the fine people.
House,
Goodbye to the fine people.
the bearded bard, and Jess, the moral compass and center of it all.
Goodbye to
The
the
back
fine
foot.
people.
I'm Dave, and we'll catch you on the next adventure.
How now, brown cow? How now, brown cow?
Brown cow, how now?
A Human Torch is denied a bank loan.
Hey, everybody, come see how good I look.
5, 4, 3.
3, 2, 1.
And on that note,
I think I'm taking advantage of myself.
I do that.
yeah, I say, yeah, I do that. I see. I don't know if I take advantage of myself. I try to make it very romantic. I light a candle, then I try to shoot it out.
Oh my god.
And that's our post credit.